Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are about to start round number 2 of our first week of the PSS 6. I'm Michael Hoyp. I'm joined in the booth by our first PSS winner of the round, James Smits. You're coming off a victory. You have not lost a PSS match in like years. So,
Well, it's because I haven't played one in years.
yeah, but you also
I'll take it however I can
yeah.
get it.
Well,
Yeah,
you just played one, and then you won the one years ago or whatever. So yeah, it's a hot
I'll
streak, we'll
take
say. Yeah. So how are you doing?
it. Doing great.
Yeah.
Happy to be back playing some Premodern.
Yeah.
Bit of a hiatus, and so I went through Premodern boot camp the past couple of weeks. But
Yeah, I would say I don't
here we
I
are.
don't know if there's like part of our audience is like we don't know who James is, because I know if anybody who's like been playing for a while certainly knows your name. You pop up in all the top eights of the tournaments. But yeah, you've stepped away for a little bit. You've had real life stuff going on. Is that true?
Yeah, I got married, have a kid. Yeah, life got busy.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be playing.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I feel like that.
I would say we're glad that you're
No,
able to find the
exactly.
time to jump in and play with us. So
Absolutely happy to be back and happy to be commentating as well. It's
yeah.
exciting.
All right, so let's talk about what we have in front of us. We have a match between Chris DiBiase and Nick Mayo. So these are both first timers in the Premodern Showdown series. Chris has brought Burn or Sly. I'll use those interchangeably for everyone, but Black White Control and then Red Green Goblins. And then Nick has brought Terrageddon. He's brought Blue Black Stifle Knot, which you had listed as Psychonaut. I mean, they're very similar lists, so I don't know. Stifle Psychonaut, same thing. And then Elves, Survival Elves. That actually does have some natural order in it too. So Nick had banned the Red Green Goblins for Chris, so we won't see any more Goblins this round, as we saw a mirror match before. And then Chris has banned the Terrageddon list from Nick. So Chris has the option of playing Burn or Black White Control, while Nick has the option of playing Blue Black Psychonaut and Elves. And so I'll say one dynamic here is anytime you have a Stifle Knot list, typically the game one is very favorable against any red list. And so you can have certain things in the sideboard that might be able to shift it close to a 50-50 matchup based on the sideboard games, but game one, it's like really bad. So I think that's probably something in Chris's mind. He's like, if I go with Burn, like I'm really afraid that Nick is going to pick Stifle Knot. I know you asked Chris what he was playing. Do you want to guess? So I guess should we tell everyone what it is?
Sure, why
Sure.
not?
So okay, so Chris is playing the Black White Control list. So I guess
I
so
think
we have
makes
the
sense.
information. I'm guessing that was part of the train of thought that Chris was is he didn't want to run the chance of going against the Blue Black
Yeah,
Stifle
it's
Knot.
like you like Sly against elves,
Mhm.
probably, right? Let's call that 60-40.
Mhm.
Um, but it's going to be a real uphill battle against Dreadnought.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, I think it makes sense to go the black-white control angle, especially against a perhaps slower Knot build, something that has a control angle to it. And obviously, seems like it might match up well against elves as well.
So you do not know what deck Nick picked. Is that correct?
I do not
So
know.
do you want to make a prediction there then?
I'm going to hazard a guess that he's on Psychonaut.
Okay. Let's jump down to the deck profiles and we will find out. So first we have the Black White Control, as we had talked about. So talking about this list, Black White Control, playable Dead Guy Ale, people call it different things. So basically, you're going to have control elements with the black cards, whether they're Duress or Gerard's Verdict, is a nice way to discard cards and also kind of gain life, because there are certain matchups where, I mean, especially Sly, where the life gain is very important. But it's just a hand disruption element. And then Vindicate also is a catch-all. And then white removal spells in terms of Plow or Wrath of God. And then I guess I'll note the card draw engine here is Skeletal Scrying. We have seen Phyrexian Arena in the past, but I think not having really any targets for the disenchant effects. I mean, I guess there's technically Phyrexian Furnace, but being able to nullify those, I think, is a strategy that the Black White Control tries to implement. And then it supplements the way to win is either Exalted Angel or Eternal Dragon, and Eternal or Decree of Justice is also another way. So those and all those elements are either they all have like a multi-purpose thing. So the Eternal Dragon can find a land if it needs to. If the game you need extra mana, the Exalted Angel can buy you time if you need extra life against a more aggressive match, and then the Decree of Justice can either kind of like be instant speed way to interact with the board, or can just cycle for a relatively cheap amount. So all kind of have like different functions. What are your thoughts on the black white control list? I guess like when you were playing more, this was not a popular archetype. Are you
No.
aware of this deck, or what do you think of it?
Yeah, of course, right. So, Dead Guy L's been around for a long time, and then Fran with his playable list version, let's call it 50 of the 60, still pretty similar. I like this deck. I tested against it for PSS this year. I think it has some very good matchups. Like I think it's very good in the Red Green Oath matchup, which is why I think it has some popularity there. Though I'm the only one playing that list in this tournament, as far as I understand, at least. I think Duress is like S tier level pre-modern card that just doesn't have a home. So love seeing a deck that can play it. Vindicate is quite all purpose. And I like Skeletal Scrying, though in a world in which there's probably some burn, it's a bit risky as well. So
Sure.
I think it's something to watch out for. But I think this deck's about stabilizing and then taking control. So
Yep.
it's going to be first 4 or 5 turns, totally important.
Okay. We'll take a look at what Nick is bringing, and he has the elves list. So this is a pretty standard list. I guess if you talk about the differences in terms of what elves is, are you playing natural order or not? Nick has 2 in the main and 2 in the sideboard. Are you playing? I mean, everyone's playing survival at this point. Are you playing Tangleware or not? And Nick has 3. And some people play Biorhythm. Nick does not have that, or does not have that. And I'm trying to think the other maybe tech choices. I mean, we have seen decks that are much more mid-rangey, that there's like Call the Herds in the sideboard and Wall of Blossoms.
Yeah.
That's not an
And
option
there's an
that Nick
element
went
of
for.
that with the Wall of Roots in the board
Okay.
as well,
Yep.
playing the 2 roots, but only the 2 there, loading up on natural orders out of the board as well. But
Yeah.
pretty stock.
Yeah, and while Wall of Roots is great with survival, I think the main idea of those Wall of Roots in the sideboard is when you play against a deck like a red deck and you want to resolve a natural order, the O5 is your best way of doing it. So like you play on turn 2, it's really hard to burn out. It will at least take 2 cards if that's the case. And then if you get to untap with it, it helps you jump that mana. And if you have that natural order, you can just power out that creature. So the main target in here is Verdant Force. I guess you also like Kamal might be a heavy hitter sometimes, and then there's a Deranged Hermit.
Hermit as well.
But then also on the sideboard, Phantom Nishoba is a card that you might get against aggressive decks. So I'm ready to see this Elves deck. It's been a while. I think we've seen it. And I always like to see the different sequences. I know you've played Elves in the past, so maybe if we get to those points, you can provide more insight. Because usually I just go say, I'm just going to take a back seat and let the Elves pilot do their magic, because there are certainly some powerful things that I can do.
Amen. Again and again, it's like if it can get to turn 3 or 4 with the survival, a couple elves, and some mana engines in play, it's going to go well for it. And I think game 1's going to be really important for the elves deck here, right? Because he's going to load up after game 1. So I think it's really off to the races. On being on the play, game 1 is going to be important here, so he gets another opportunity to be on the play in game 3 if there is that.
All right, let's jump down to the match. If you want to let our players know that they can begin, we will kick things off.
Yes, sir.
So we have Chris on the left. I do think I need to flip around his screen. And he's sporting the Premodern Super League playmat. So that was something that Will Hurst had commissioned for the participants. And so he's sporting that. He's going to kick things off with the Plains and then a Phyrexian Furnace. So the most powerful of plays in all of Premodern, for sure.
Exactly, but with the Mirrodin Plains, I'm sure some people are going to have questions about that.
Yeah, I know he did note something about that, so it wasn't an intentional Plains. I guess I don't know if there's more of a story to that.
And pardon my naivete here. Is that a Llanowar Elves?
I think it's a Finhorn.
Is that like
Elves.
the M30 or something?
I think it's
Finhorn. Oh, right. That's the foil Finhorn.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I got Aaron Dix in the chat telling me I'm a noob.
There's a lot of new arts of old cards, and it's hard to keep up with them.
I'll blame it on the glare. Yeah.
Yep.
I do know that's a Caves of Koilos, so we've got that figured out.
Yep. And it's going to cast a Gerard's Verdict. So while there are certainly some targets, like some cards that Nick does not mind discarding, namely Anger, he's going to hit a Gaia's Cradle, and I think it was a Caller the Claw, I think was the other card. So Chris is going to go up 3 life. I guess that'll net him at 22 since he took a damage to cast the Gerard's Verdict.
Yeah. Well, seems good in this matchup here. Tangle Wire. It's going to really let him open up in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, certainly since like Chris's deck is reactive or like slow, he doesn't really have anything that he can add to the board. So this is definitely going to give Nick a good amount of time, especially if he has a card like Survival to.
Yeah, interesting. Discarding Quirion Ranger. Hand must be gas.
Oh, it's Quirion Ranger, not Claw of the Claw. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris has an uneventful turn thanks to the Tangle Wire, and then passes it over to Nick. Nick is going to tap Gaia's Cradle and Tangle Wire. So I guess that, and the Finhorn Elves. I guess that would indicate. I guess yeah, you would need a land to. I would say the Gaia's Cradle is.
Yeah.
But now the Gaia's Cradle is 2 mana, and I guess there'll be one less counter on the Tangle Wire. So Nick will have access to 1, 2. 4 mana if he doesn't even if he doesn't have a land.
Yeah. And it's a bummer for Chris that he missed that land drop as well, right? That's something that he really needs to stay on to keep up here.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I mean, I guess the Tangle Wire does tick down, but like when you don't add any permanents to the board, then it kind of, that's a nice way of like reducing the sting of Tangle Wire. We do have a morph for Nick, and I believe
and Chris is basically hoping to ramp to a Wrath of God or something similar to that, so he can stabilize this board state.
I believe it's a Nantuko Vigilante is the only morph in the list.
Watch out. That Phyrexian Furnace is so messy.
Like I said, the most powerful play in pre-modern, turn 1 play in pre-modern. It's answered thanks to the Nantuko Vigilante.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the squee is so ruined.
Okay, so Cyclone Eternal Dragon. This is during the upkeep before the Tangle Wire. Yeah. So he's at least able to get another land drop, but
Time Walk.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. And so I mean Nick didn't have like a survival, though. I mean, maybe if you're expecting not that much to happen on Chris's next turn, then maybe it's still something that he would have. Though I guess given you're playing against like a duress deck, I think you're more inclined to put it on the board if you have it.
And this is one of those deceptive hands for elves where look on paper like, wow, this is a great hand. But then come turn 3, 4, you've just run out of gas and you can stall out. And that's the sort of hand that he'd be worried about, that Chris is very happy to see going against. If he's not feeling the pressure, right, he's still at 20 life, 22. Yeah.
And a turn, the Nantuko Vigilante will get morphed up to destroy the furnace. At least Chris does have a mana so that he can cycle the furnace and get a card.
Yeah. I wonder if he's holding back on a survival, waiting to clear that off. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that would interrupt maybe the sequences if you're trying to get squee or something, that you don't want the furnace on the board. All right, Tangle Wire goes down to 1, and then it'll tap, and so Nick has access to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana as it stands. I think it'll be kind of interesting. I mean, there's a funny situation where you play against Wrath of God decks, and if you have Kamal and open mana, that you could say, hey, if you're going to cast Wrath of God, I'm going to turn all your lands into creatures, and then it's a one-sided Armageddon. So
yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't have like the priest draw to really power that out.
Yeah.
Kind of sad. No offense, Nick. A bit of a sad Yavimaya Granger here.
Yeah, so the reason why the Yavimaya Granger is in the deck is to get the mountain, and that's so that the card of anger, and really like we've had some people that have cut the anger from the survival elves, and they've either played different colors or they just want a more consistent like green mana base. But with survival, like the turns when if your deck doesn't have anger as compared to when it does, it really makes a difference. Like the elves deck is much more explosive, or the the threat of activation, or like you could have an empty board from the Elves player, and then they could just untap and kill you if they have anger in their deck. Which if they don't, then it's you feel a lot safer passing the turn in a lot of situations.
Yeah. And it's really, the natural order build from Mango is the one that, kind of pushed people towards cutting anger there and cutting the red, which is
well. Vindicate finds a target, and it goes after the red source. So that kind of going after that explosive.
That,
There's only that one mountain in the list, so you're not going to be able to get it if there's more copies of Carplusion Forest, or if he picks up that Yavimaya Granger. So let's see if Echo is paid for the Yavimaya Granger. Looks like it might be. Kind of a discount because there's a Gaia's Cradle in play, so it's kind of only like tapping 2, right?
Yeah. I'll be interested to see. We've got 5 available here, but if he's just swinging with the team, it's some pressure, but Chris is going to be able to untap here.
You need to update the life total. Looks like I missed a couple turns, so Chris is at
17.
Oh, okay.
Plus whatever's going to happen here now, I think.
All right, down to 11. It's kind of funny that Nick is the leader of the duress crew, and that's what he has on the playmat. But Chris is the one casting duress in this match. So
yeah, taste of his own medicine. The question is, because this is so for those that don't have the background here, Chris is really an MTGO grinder.
Yes,
and did not have any physical cards.
I do think he had the burn deck already. I do think the other 2 decks.
Yeah, he was building it and posting about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's.
Yeah, he was saying that.
Curious to see what set he's going with on the duresses. If it's not the Urza Saga ones, it's real for shame stuff.
I would say there's a lot of new versions, and I don't know if I know all the all the art.
Some bad art out there.
But yeah. It's funny that before I really knew like the duress crew, I had heard of there was a LobsterCon and someone had I think a duress crew playmat. I don't even remember who it was against, but I saw it and I'm just like, I assume this person's going to be playing like a duress deck, and and then they were playing goblins, and then I ended up losing, and so.
Lesson learned. So we've got a deranged tournament that's come out off natural order. So kind of, 1 turn clock here for Chris. Big, I don't think it's going to get there.
Well, Chris responds with a face-up Exalted Angel, so while that... It still might be enough because it's not lifelink, it's a trigger. So if you're able to deal lethal damage, so if you're attacking for the biggest thing you block is a 2/2, so then you get in for 6, 7, 8. Oh no, a 3 power. So 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I think you just attack with everything. You block the 3/2 with Exalted Angel, then you still take 12 damage. It looks like that's the conclusion that Nick has come to. And
I'll be GG. We're tapped out on Chris's side.
Yeah, I would say like, barring a contagion that's not in Chris's list, I think we're going to be going to game 2. Well, very much the fair version of Elves, where it just, I played Tanglewire, and that was some of the cards that like people have cut from the list because I don't know if they're just more focused on the combo, but we saw that. I have to imagine that game would be very different if that Tanglewire didn't come down and Chris had some amount of terms to develop and do something. He could put a face down,
there's an Exalted Angel down,
and then flip it up, and then you're racing and have a life pad, and so Tanglewire I think did a lot of good work in that game for Nick. But let's
been a fan of it.
Jump to the sideboards and let's see if we can
engineered play.
Yes. So the first list I have up, I have Nick's Elves list up. So 4 Naturalized, 2 Tasabu's Web, 2 Wall of Roots, 1 Tanglewire, 1 Caller the Claw, 1 Uktabi Orangutan, Masticore, 2 Natural Order, and Phantom Nishoba. So I think I definitely want the other Tanglewire. I don't.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I mean, like Caller the Claw, is.
We'll color the claw, yeah, exactly, because of the Wrath plan.
I mean,
Going natural order, sizing up here, I don't necessarily think makes sense. You're just more vulnerable, right? You're 2-for-1ing yourself.
yeah. So one thing that I guess Naturalized doesn't have any targets, like useful targets in the main, but you have to anticipate Engineered Play coming in, so that's probably a card that's also on the mind. Like I was looking at this list, and against some decks, like maybe decks that don't have Swords to Plowshares, you might be able to say like, hey, I'm gonna like lean less on the elves if I'm anticipating them having Engineered Plague, and I'm just gonna go more into a natural order plan. But because there's like both Engineered Plague and then like Wrath and Swords, I feel like that plan might not be able to be executed from Nick. So I think we might be to see a standard sideboard where it's like bring in some number of Naturalize, and then I guess what cards do you usually cut? That's the problem. I'm not sure what cards you cut.
It's always the question here, and you're basically just shaving mana rocks or little 1/1s. So that's really the route that you're going to go here, just to make space. You could probably think about cutting I think he's 2 main deck Wall of Roots, right? So you could probably shave there if you wanted to. I think you want to keep in. You could maybe even think about cutting out the natural order package. That's going to make the space because you need it. But Chris on the other side, just look at the list, only has the 2 plagues.
Okay.
So
I'll bring that up.
Yeah, exactly. So if Nick's bringing in the 4 naturalized there, he's got it covered. Now, obviously, you have to be worried about duress from Chris. What else is he doing?
So I'll just go through the sideboard real quick. There's
Infest is going to be interesting.
Yeah, there's 2 Circle Protection Red, 2 Engineered Plague, a Disenchant, a Chainer's Edict, a Seal of Cleansing, a Smother, 2 Infest, 2 Haunting Echoes, Aura of Silence, Warmth, and a Chroma's Vengeance. So Infest definitely seems like a matchup that you would want. And then I think you would want the Smother. I don't think I would want Chainer's Edict. And then the 2 Engineered Plagues. Cards that I'm interested in cutting. I think it might be like Vindicate might be too clunky. I don't know if you take out Duress.
I think Phyrexian Furnace is too
cute. I mean, it does have, in theory, like it can kind of. I mean, I don't know if it changed like Nick's game plan at all that last game, but it doesn't. The opportunity cost doesn't seem that high. But Vindicate also, and then I don't maybe Decree of Justice 1.
Duress gets better now that theoretically he's bringing in more targets.
Yeah.
And it's one of your ways to combat the naturalize as well. Especially if you're only on the 2 Engineered Plagues. I do like, I see Aaron in the chat as well. I do like Infest here as well. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that card seems like a slam dunk. The Infest almost seems better than the Engineered Plague, especially since your opponent knows it. Knows about the plagues. But yeah, I think both of those come in. I'm not exactly sure which angle that Chris is going to go to cut those. So I'm just making sure our players. I just don't see them at the table, so I think maybe they're taking
they gave
quick
up.
Break.
Game over. Time to go home.
All right. Well, we'll jump back down the match. So when it looks like Nick has resumed his seat. So yeah. So sideboarder games. Do you like one deck over the other? I mean, I think Chris's deck gets better, but I think I still might be an Elves fan in this matchup.
I think he's still playing catch up. Yeah. I mean, look, he now has. He goes from just the 4 Wrath, or he's playing 2 Wrath main. Now he's got 2 Plagues, 2 Infest, and a Chroma's Vengeance. Though Chroma's Vengeance is on 6, so he has to be there. So he's got some staying power. I just don't know if his threats that are actually going to close the game are effective enough to get there.
Yeah, I would say like in general, I think the Elves deck is powerful enough that it can punish decks like Black-White Control, where you get the time to set up and navigate. Though it's always interesting when you play against a control deck that has cards like Duress. I mean, we talked about that might not even be in the deck, but like if you're waiting for certain situations to deploy a card like Survival of the Fittest to find like where you have enough mana to use it a bunch of times, well then sometimes they just play Duress and that plan gets foiled. So it'll be interesting to see that dynamic of how aggressive Nick is going to commit to the board, or if he's kind of play it slow.
I think being on the play is valuable for Chris here as well. But again, needs to be hitting land drops just so he's not getting behind here. And that's again where an early Tangle Wire from Nick is gonna go a long way.
All right, so it looks like players are shuffling up. I think Nick has decided to keep, and then Chris is going to kick things off with
Right.
Quetzalcoatlus.
Oh no, that Duress! Oh no!
But it is a Duress you recognize. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, it's fair. Yeah.
He gets a
I've been out of the
survival.
game, but not that one.
Gets a survival.
Yeah, that's exactly fun hit. Yeah.
So the other cards that I see, there's Forest Mountain. I think it's a Multani's Acolyte and a Kieran Ranger.
Yeah.
And then I think another forest.
Okay.
As we lean into our computer screens to try and figure out this.
Nick, I appreciate that your deck is foiled out, but you're making it hard for me, Brian. Oh, I wonder what it could be.
Yes, the very mysterious morph. I always thought that was an interesting, like, kind of a miss for Constructed, that the morph cards were just like, it was never like for Constructed, it was just never an unknown. You just knew which morphs the people were playing. There was never like, is Exalted Angel and then Tuca Vigilante. I'm trying to think which other ones like got played. Hystrodon got played a little bit, but it was never a guess. And for Constructed, and I feel like that was a miss for Onslaught.
No, it's a great mechanic.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
it's good for Chris.
Yeah, Chris is just gonna turbo up and flip up this Exalted Angel and go to town. So he goes to 21 while Nick goes to 16.
Yeah, that's an interesting start for Chris. It does kind of, nix the Wrath, the Chroma's Vengeance plan. He has to be going Infest, Engineered Plague, but he's got 4 of that across his deck. So I think it puts the pressure on Nick to perform here, and especially after hitting the first turn survival off the Duress, it's put Nick in kind of, again, a similar position to where he was game 1, minus the Tangle Wire, attacking with a 1/1, a 2/2. He's got a natural order here, so that's going to be strong.
So I think this would be Verdant Force.
Unless you brought in Neshoba?
I think I would want. I guess Neshoba might be good here if you had access to it. But I was to say, like, the one thing about the Neshoba is if you get a few turns, that at least you get some benefit if it gets swords. But life here is actually pretty valuable, so.
Yeah, it's going to combat the Exalted Angel.
I mean, this is just not a matchup where I would normally think Phantom Neshoba would be like a card that I would think would be like great, but yeah, we'll see.
I'd say similarly, Verdant Force feels fine.
Is that a deranged tournament? I think that's what that is. Or is it a Wall of Roots? What is it? Oh, Collar of the Claw?
Oh, the Collar of the Claw? So he's going to get a 2/2 from the natural order?
That's not the most exciting natural order. Is there...
At least he didn't 2-for-1 himself. He 2-for-2'd himself.
Yeah,
I guess he just wants bodies at this point. Because it's a race.
Well, so what does that mean about either Nick's hand or his deck? Like that
he doesn't have the mana to support the Echo on the deranged tournament.
Yeah, but you still would get 4 power worth of creatures from the squirrels.
I wonder if he, yeah. I wonder if he has the deranged tournament in his hand, and then if he took out the Verdant Force.
Yeah. But if you're taking out like Verdant Force, like is Natural Order like worth being in your deck?
Yeah, that's why you'd like cut the package, right?
Yeah. All right, we'll see. We'll see that Angel gets in again, and Chris hasn't done anything else. Really, I mean, Chris has only played 2 cards this entire game. He's cast a Duress and an Exalted Angel. So I'm like,
It's amazing.
uh, and so I have to imagine he has like, I mean, it's got to be Decree of Justice or Plow, I would think.
Yeah, and he might have an Infest in his hand as well. Might have Eternal Dragon kind of sitting there waiting on the plane cycle.
I guess I think that last turn, if I had Infest, I think I would have pulled the trigger just on 3 creatures.
Yeah.
Just because a card like Gaia's Cradle is just way more powerful when there's a bunch of creatures in play.
Totally.
Which we do see here. So Multani's Acolyte into Gaia's Cradle into Multani's Acolyte. And they're still floating mana. We'll see if Nick is able to do something crazy here. I do think that card
exactly.
in his hand. I do think that's a Wall of Roots, I think, in his hand that we've seen. That one's a Yavimaya Granger.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the at least not yet the symbiote to bounce the Multani's Acolyte and start having a field day.
Yeah. All right, this is a Decree of Justice. So there is 2 open mana, so it looks like 2 soldiers. We got some drawn tokens. Look like squirrels, though.
Yeah, I always appreciate that. That's the best raffle prize I've gotten in a pre-modern tournament was a playmat drawn by someone's daughter. It's lovely.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a big dragon.
Rich has asked our deck list public. I will post the deck list after the match tonight. So I will do a Facebook post in the group, and then next week I'll have access at least to a Google sheet for people viewing. But yes, the deck lists. You'll be able to enjoy all the deck choices and all the nitty gritty that people have decided on, which is always fun because I mean,
except Rich, that's too much power for Rich. We need to curtail the amount of pre-modern knowledge. That
someone can tap in Rich and then ask what they should do each week.
Exactly.
I'll adjust the life total list again. So Chris has just been chipping in with this Exalted Angel. I mean, there's no flyers or way to. There's no. I don't think there's a well wisher. Not that you would really want it from Nick, anyways. So like, I think he's just on a 2-turn clock. So he's just got to kind of race this Exalted Angel.
Yeah, because no survival engine here, or something from or even the symbiote to get some card advantage going.
I mean, if Nick drew a survival, that's probably the best thing he could draw.
Assuming he's a creature in hand.
It's still interesting that so Nick went that natural order turn, got the Call of the Claw just for 1 additional token, and we said, well, maybe he's got like the deranged tournament in his hand. That doesn't seem to be the case because I think he would have played it on a prior turn, like instead of playing the Yavimaya Granger.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, that's just foot on the gas, keep the pressure going, try to race the Exalted Angel because, look, you're playing elves. I don't know how many lands he's playing. No. What is it? 18, right? Max?
I will say Yavimaya Granger does open up opportunities of anger, survival anger lines. So this is a Kamal. All right.
No, we have a Kamal.
That is a card that we didn't talk about as a target for natural order this game, but like that is a way to.
He doesn't have the mana to activate though.
Yeah,
because he doesn't have a priest. Short. He doesn't unless he has another cradle in hand. He's already gone that route. He's already
he's already used it this turn. He's tapped the first one and then played the second one. . Though, if you have Wall of Roots in hand, you tap it for 2 mana. You add a mana, and it's also +1 mana for Cradle, and then you have a second Cradle. Wouldn't you get 1 additional mana if you had? So if he would have played the Wall of Roots there first, he would have had a 5th mana, I think.
Unless he's holding on to that for survival activation. But
Well, I
again,
mean,
it seems like he's gone more of a like all-in win path
I'm just
versus
if you're able
kind of
to if you're
playing
able
more
to
defensive
overrun this
games.
turn, I feel like is there anything that Nick would have to worry about if you just played the Wall of Roots and added the mana, played the Kamal, and activated its overrun ability? You'd be attacking with it's like all the Mutani's acolytes, three
And
Mutani's
Infest is a
acolytes.
sorcery, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if that is
Yeah.
a Wall of Roots, then I think that might have been a line that was overlooked. All right, Decree of Justice is going to make 2 more tokens. This, I believe, is mid-combat, so Chris has the option to line up blocks. So I guess 1/1/1. He's just blocking and soaking up all the damage. I guess if you're not trading there, that is most likely that you have a board sweeper. I guess the only board
and you're just
sweepers
preserving life total.
we saw, there's Wrath of God, Infest, and then potentially an Akroma's Vengeance.
Akroma's Vengeance. Yeah. There's a 6 mana.
I would say it's really
Windmill
interesting
Slam.
though, but it's kind of like, I guess you don't want to get rid
There
of your
it is.
Exalted Angel. There is an Akroma's Vengeance.
Maybe he's got. I bet he's sitting on oodles of Eternal Dragons. Maybe another Angel.
There is a Kamal in play though with 4 open mana. This is a very costly Akroma's Vengeance. This is a talk that we talked about. Like you can turn your opponent's lands into creatures. So you could cut them off of white mana, or you could cut them off of black mana. It looks like white mana is chosen. So that Akroma's Vengeance with Kamal in play is very costly. Oop, that token also.
That 1/1's going all the way. I don't know. It's gone as well. RIP. Yeah. Kamal did its job, one way or the other.
Yeah, not the job that he was like called in to do, but certainly something that he had in his toolbox. So
this is just like onslaught block on display here.
I wonder
that was Angel Vengeance. Yeah.
That was not like a sequence that I ever remember people like talking about because I didn't play like during that era. I just started like
Kamal didn't get much play because you saw Chroma's Vengeance in like red white Astral Slide, red white green Astral Slide. Yeah. We've got an Nantuko Vigilante that's really going to go all the way now.
Yeah. Chris can't even cast that Engineered Plague that's in his hand. I don't know. That Nantuko Vigilante. This guy might just get flipped up. I guess he's got a lot of swings.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a Smother.
Is that that's Smother? Okay.
Oh, but
onslaught block again, just crushing it. I remember when that was like a $6 uncommon.
But Nick should be able to just morph it up, and then because the Smother is converted mana cost 3 or less, and Nantuko Vigilante is a 4 casting cost.
Yes, sir. And he can morph as an instant. I agree, Robin.
All right, we have a Fyndhorn Elves, I believe.
Fyndhorn. All right, the 1/1s are going to really start chipping away here. Well, but Chris is like just land. This is the perfect sequence for him.
There are a lot of lands in his deck, though I guess we haven't seen like the engine of Eternal Dragon and like Fyndhorn Elves, not Elder. I bring up the wrong card.
We're playing the Squee. Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely not plan A, but
been there, done that. You gotta do what you gotta do.
It's kind of funny because Squee normally, like, you're like, yeah, there's no opportunity cost, put it on the board, because if it dies, then it'll come back or whatever. But Chris does have Swords of Plowshares in his deck, and uh, so it potentially could get exiled. Whereas if you kept it in your hand, then it would be something that it would be protected from that kind of effect. But Engineered Plague is going to come down, only going to get one creature at this point because he had the.
I bounced back to his hand as well with
Oh, okay,
Symbiote.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in that spot, like, do you ever name Insect? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, the Wirewood Symbiote's the engine as well.
Yeah.
I'm less worried about the Fyndhorn Elf and the mana. He has, 7 lands, including a Guy's Cradle. 4, 5.
Haunting Echoes. That was not a card I would
See,
expect coming.
I saw that on the board, and I enjoyed that.
I guess this was just not a game plan that I thought would be executed from Chris. Like, usually I think of Haunting Echoes against the slower decks, but we're gonna see some Haunting Echoes action. Also, like it gives Chris some information on how Nick sideboards, which is kind of interesting. So, if you're not familiar with Haunting Echoes, remove all the cards in the opponent's graveyard other than basic lands, and then you get to search your opponent's deck for cards that share the name and exile those. And there has been quite a number. I mean, a lot of the heavy hitters. So survival, natural
it's
order,
a good Haunting Echoes.
cradle.
The other call, the Caller of the Claw, which is important in this matchup.
Is there anything really important that's been left in Nick's deck?
Priest of Titania, but less important now.
Yeah, it seems a lot harder for Nick to win now. This is certainly going to
chipping away with that squee. That never going to die squee.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if the Naturalize takes care of an Engineered Plague, then your best hope normally from that situation would be to have like Multani's Acolyte. But I think we've already seen. I guess those are all getting exiled, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no real draw engine at all from Nick anymore.
No. It's interesting because, I mean, Haunting Echoes, it's going to be good against something that's putting a lot of cards in the graveyard, right? So Survival's going to do that theoretically if you're can make it to the long game, but you're banking on your ability to make it to the long game as well.
Well, it's not only that, like you could get to the point where you're the long game, but also if you have a card like Haunting Echoes and your opponent has a board presence, if they have 5 power on the board and you're casting Haunting Echoes, then Nick might not even care, because if you're spending a whole turn and not doing anything, then Nick might just be able to attack and do it. So you need the game to go long and to have board control. So which Chris does, even after wrathing and then like blowing up 4 of his lands. He's in a situation where
Kamal land destruction.
Yeah.
You thought you were going to see red-green land destruction tonight. You just didn't think it was going to involve a Kamal. I agree, Rich. This game is turning out to be quite an interesting game.
Yeah, it's always interesting, like, just like when you're like, oh, the games will play out this way, this is how it goes, and it's like, there's definitely some times where the matches just go completely different, and you get to do some really weird things. So,
gotcha.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see like how formidable of an offense Nick is able to present now after getting Haunting Echoes and against an Engineered Plague. So, I mean, I'm trying to think what else. Hardcast Verdant Force.
Yeah, literally. I'm very curious how Chris sideboarded now as well, because he had to make a lot of room.
So 2 Wall of Roots, Wooded Foothills, and a Fyndhorn Elves. We haven't seen Tanglewire, which would be interesting because that's a card that we thought was one of the best cards.
He's still low in mana here as well.
I guess I wasn't able to see when Nick was going through his deck because of Haunting Echoes, kind of what the other hits were. Phyrexian Furnace getting cycled. It's not
Furnace to Nowhere.
Yeah. I'll say it's not trying to live the dream of exiling a Squee Goblin Nabob.
Well, we've got an 8-turn clock left here.
I would say I didn't.
One places.
I mean, it was didn't think that was going to be at all formidable enough, but I mean, I don't know how many cards Chris has in hand, but you're just chipping away. The life total is going down.
That's I'm beginning to think that Chris took out the Eternal Dragons as well, and he's already used 2 Decrees and 1 Exalted Angel.
Well, so one thing that I mean, naturally, like Chris or Nick is gonna hold one toughness elves in his hand. So he, with the Jared's Verdict, he discarded. I think it was a Wall of Roots and a Findorn Elves. Doesn't want to discard land because he does want
No.
Chris to gain any extra life. He would prefer to beat down if possible. But yeah,
Chris is at the point where he's drawn every land in his deck. That's good. Just as Fran intended.
this Wirewood symbiote and this Squee have attacked like 6 times. It's been pretty impressive.
Dude, the goblin insect, dynamic in Magic has never been stronger than right now.
Yeah,
This is pre-modern at its finest. This is 2024 pre-modern on
this
display and in all of its beauty. Yeah.
no longer an elves deck. It's I said we were gonna have goblins. Apparently, it's a goblins deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Red green goblins. It's right
Probably
here.
exactly. It's every deck.
Yeah.
It is red green oath. It's red green goblins. It's doing it all.
Ooh, so Chris is gonna cast Skeletal Scrying. So this would have been like way, way, way better like a few turns ago when you had a lot more life to play
It's
with.
dangerous.
But your deck is filled with cards that you should be able to answer, like um, a couple of 1/1s. Skeletal Scrying. So he's gonna exile. How far? How far did he go down? Was it 3 cards?
Oh, we got infest.
But the Squee will come back.
Oh yeah, that squee is around for the long haul here. Yeah, naturalize. Okay, all right. Gets more 1/1s on that board.
Okay. Oh, is I chat is saying that there's issues. Try refreshing.
Oh,
Oh,
the stream
I'm
just cut out. I think your internet might be having some.
okay. Um, yeah, mine says
Yeah, I think
reconnecting on
your
my Streamlabs. I think
your
now
internet might
I
be
think it
having
might be
issues.
back.
Cool.
All right.
He was offline. Oh, you're back on. All right,
Okay.
live now.
All right. Well, if there's issues with stream, we'll have a recording that'll go to YouTube, and that shouldn't be impacted by anything. It's interesting that
Yeah.
that
I
nothing's
think
been
it's still offline on.
that there's not any issues between you and me like on the whereby, but or any of the players, but the stream is having issues. So
Your connection is going in and out. Like I'm
okay.
seeing you lagging, and I'm seeing your network bar come up.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, so this Wirewood symbiote's in play. Chris is down to 4. A Swords of Plowshares did exile Squee, so the situation that I talked about has occurred. But now a second engineered plague comes down.
RIP.
This time it's naming. Oh no. Yeah, so there is a second engineered plague, but there's also another Swords of Plowshares.
I think the screen's frozen on stream. Maybe?
All right. Well, we'll let this game finish up, and if it doesn't go to a third, then we'll let the players know, and I'll try and do some adjustments on my end. But right now, the recording should be fine. So, all right, we have an Eternal Dragon from Chris, and that's going to prompt a concession for Nick. So we do even things at a game apiece with a sideboard plan that was. Haunting Echoes was not a card that I was expecting. So really interesting to see that. If you want
MVP,
yeah, if you want to
crushed it.
message the players to pause real quick. I'm going to check some things on my end to see if I can fix the stream. So I'm going to go to the be right back. I might have to restart the stream, but I'll figure it out in just a moment.
Yeah.
All right. James, if you want to let our players know that they can start, hopefully we don't have any more internet issues. And we can figure out who's going to win this match as we're going into game 3 and of the black-white control against elves.
I just want to see Haunting Echoes again. I mean,
I'll say we got some in the chat. It says let's go elves, and then I look at the username and it's Kyrian Gamer. So not a big surprise that the Kyrian Gamer is cheering for elves.
No. Also a Grotog fan. Are we sure that's not Lanny?
Yeah.
I appreciate that also from Querying Gamer. Duress crew must be happy regardless of outcome. Either Nick wins or the Duress deck does.
Yeah.
What's interesting though, I too have played against the Duress group. Never once seen a Duress cast. So talking a big game here.
Yeah, I was saying maybe it's like a ploy that they do the complete opposite. They just do it to gain a competitive advantage. Like if you could be like the Gush Club and then you just never play any islands. But that also seems like a hindrance in itself of not playing Gush. So
they're still on the first chapter of the Gush book. So. We should have Chris hold back his hand here.
Well, he's trying to show the camera, but I guess.
Oh, is he trying to show us? Okay.
But
sir, this is live.
I guess if he's mulliganing, I guess that was his intention. But yeah, yes, if we can see it, then yes, your opponent also can see it. So. All right, so I guess we saw a different, I don't know if really a different game plan, but we saw different card choices, I guess, maybe they expected. Do you think that the way it played out, do you think Chris has more of an advantage maybe than we thought?
No. I would say that both game 1 and 2, Nick has not had the gassy start.
Sure.
The Tangle Wire in game 1 was valuable. If the survival didn't get hit with the Duress in game 2, then he's off to the races. But otherwise, he's just attacking with some 1/1s and some 2/2s, right? Which is a clock that's only going to really put pressure on Chris come turn 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Which is the time that Chris needs to develop his board state. So I'm curious. I think it's, maybe this is the time for more aggressive mulliganing, especially on the play from Nick. You can get off to that hot start.
Do you aggressively mulligan to a card like Survival, or because you do know that there's cards like Duress? I mean, I guess that's the only pinpoint one. Yeah. But is that something you think
I would aggressively mulligan to a hand that is going to put me in a strong mana position and potentially something to do with that mana.
Okay.
So whether that's a survival, natural order, even just like an early, turn 3 deranged hermit, right? Okay. That's going to really put the pressure on. And why would Symbiote's great? I maybe would have wanted a mana dork, but early Symbiote's going to do a lot for this game. Right? Dress, goodbye survival.
Oh, but there's
look at that.
A second copy. So Kyrian Ranger, Survival of the Fittest, and Gaia's Cradle are the cards remaining in Nick's hand after the first survival gets taken. So a resistant hand to the disruption. And I think you just run the survival.
Yeah.
It's totally safer. It's safer. At least this turn, it's safer in play than it would be in your hand. Okay. Yep. So yep, the Kyrian Ranger is a second
and
creature.
You have to force to have the disenchant here, right?
Yeah,
you just gotta.
I guess post board there are some there are some answers post board. Yeah. Well, Nick should be ready for Duress. He's part of the Duress crew, so. I guess that's the best way to play against Duress. Either have no cards that it can take, or two of the same card that you want to take.
Yeah, redundancy, exactly. Yeah, snap keep. I have 2 survivals. I'm getting 1 out, especially on the play. Now the question is, Nick has another creature in his hand.
Oh, can you send him a chat to have at least one of them have like the phone to keep track of life?
Oh
Looks
yeah.
looks like that got taken off during my internet debacles.
Messaged. We've got Alvaro
Okay.
saying Cabal therapy greater than duress.
Well, certainly would be in that
Especially if
situation. Yeah.
especially if you're Robin and it's turn 1 and you have no clue what your opponent's playing. So slam that Cabal therapy.
A perfect reference from you, James. So something that like I feel like only if you're like were a fan of PSS1 or PSS2,
Yeah,
or maybe
exactly.
maybe it was
Like real
PSS3. Yeah.
2021
Yep.
pre-COVID,
Yeah.
pre-modern
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
23 people in a monthly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like the first activation of survival is going to discard a Kyrian Ranger. It's going to get Squee. And then Chris is going to tap 3 mana. Is this a Vindicate?
And he's taking 1 damage, 2 damage?
I think it was at 1. He was at 16. So it's not an Infest.
Yeah, Vindicate on the survival, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I feel like if you're Chris, you're not unhappy with that situation. One thing I will note is, oh, okay. So there's survival is being used, so there's 2 activations. Okay, never mind. Yeah. My comment doesn't make. I was gonna say something different. So is there any one card? I think you would want to get Multani's Acolyte. I think would be the card.
Yeah, especially because you've got the symbiote.
The symbiote,
so you can get another engine going, right? Yeah. I think it's about just establishing position here. There's a world in which the Vindicate should have gone after the Cradle. But it depends what's in Chris's hand, right? Survival wins long term. Cradle's kind of the short term battle.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you can have mana engines that are in the form of creatures like Priest of Titania, but Chris at least has
it's not
like
on the board yet though.
Yeah, and like if they wouldn't have haste, and Chris his deck is full of answers, and it's kind of like if Nick is going to put all those eggs in that basket, then a card like Infest or Engineered Plague that gets even better. So
yeah. Nick is all in on Collar of the Claw here.
Is that was the last card he got? Okay.
Yeah, that was the last. Which I guess look, you've got Chris on 3 mana. He's about to be on he's already on Infest mana. Mm-hmm. About to be on Wrath mana as well. Some protection there, but he's also pretty. He's got a Cradle and a Forest, so he's got 3 total here. I guess Kyrian Ranger 4. Beats. Those insect beats.
There have been a lot of insect beats this match.
All right, then we've got the Priest. All right.
Yeah, but interesting to see this match. Like, what damage has been dealt by non-elves as compared to elves, and it's probably pretty close. Like, there were squirrels and like insect mutants and insect and goblins, and then some elves and a human or whatever. So yeah.
All I know is that Goblin so far is the MVP of PSS 6.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Nick adds a Priest of Titania, so he's leaving up mana for Collar the Claw. Which he has that and one other card in his hand. Chris has got to figure out how to navigate. I mean, there's a lot of like counterplay. Like even in this situation, if you just look at if there were a Swords to Plowshares that could take off like the end of turn that could take out the 3rd mana, and then you'd be able to like Infest or Engineered Plague and wipe the board. Or if you have
more
Gerard's Verdict, that would take out the Collar of the Claw. I guess you could return an elf with Kyrian or return a forest and then have 3 cards. So maybe that one wouldn't be as effective.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Morph, assuming Chris can get to the fourth land, might have been his best play there. Maybe a Vindicate on the Cradle, but now he's got another force on the board as well.
So Chris presumably doesn't have extra lands because that was his fourth turn.
Yeah.
So I got children running around upstairs. And
Well, now they've been banned from using the internet.
Yeah, well, no, neither of them was doing anything. Like, it's not like they were downloading anything or whatever. I mean, my older one wasn't even like FaceTiming. I thought she was. Nope, she was just looking at Instagram or something.
Is the fourth land hitting the board is the question. No, it is not. We got the Verdict here, though? I guess why would he tap that way?
Cycle Eternal Dragon.
He's just trying to get up to the fourth mana.
So if you flipped Exalted Angel from the spot, are you in a spot where you could race here?
Yeah, because he's only taking 3 from Symbiote Ranger Priest. At that point, it almost forces Nick to play out the collar to put the 2 more points of toughness or on the board.
Yeah, I guess I've been like, putting the collar into play is kind of free because you have a Wireward Symbiote that you could always pick it up if you needed to. Yes.
Now Chris needs to hold his hand back.
Chad has pointed out that Squee Goblin Nabob has been in the graveyard for Nick, and while like most time it won't matter, but when you're playing against like Gerard's Verdict, like if that card were cast, you definitely would want Squee in your hand to discard.
It's the pressure of the PSS right there. Game 2, Nick had his ring on his deck as his reminder.
Yeah.
This is game 3. This is for the first round marbles here.
Yeah. All right, attack for 4. We'll get in. So the Collar of the Claw does get committed to the board. Exalted Angel, the face down Exalted Angel will not block. Not want to get in tangle with the 2/2. Or well, I mean, is there?
I don't know why you're not blocking the 1/1s there though.
Well, I've tried. There's a situation where I guess you could only cast Collar of the Claw once because you could pick up the Collar Claw and then play it, and then that 1/1 becomes a 2/2. But you could make an argument that the 1/1's ability is better than the 2/2.
I guess maybe because he just bounces it with Symbiote, but at least you block the damage as well, right?
Yeah. And Chris could be debating whether he needs to have this Exalted Angel be on defense. That might like prevent Nick from attacking this next turn, and then he spends his mana, and then he's clear to like attack and uses mana on his next turn. But it looks like he's going to attack this turn, and an 8-point life swing thanks to Exalted Angel.
I see Spice Paradise mentioned in the chat, so shout out to Phil Nguyen for running that as well.
Yeah.
Gotta love the spice. New York City, it's all about the spice right now. Endless Worm, you got the Spice Paradise, all in.
How spicy are you? Because I would say like from a competitive standpoint, I think you're very competitive. I don't picture you like the super spice type. I think maybe you like might throw something into a competitive deck, but how spicy are you?
I'm not that spicy. Okay. I'd like to think that I'm spicier than I am, but I'm just not. Like the spiciest thing that I'll do is like try to win with a tier 1 deck, sure. Right? By doing something interesting, at least in a competitive setting. I'm just too competitive, but maybe I'm not creative either. Like I look at the stuff that Phil does, and I'm like, I just don't have that card knowledge either.
I don't know if I'll agree with that. I've seen some lists, like the 5-color slide comes to mind, where it, like you definitely are like doing something that isn't following a template of everybody else. So
that's fair. I just like Enlightened Tutor way too much.
I would say like it certainly is less exciting than some of the things that like Phil has done, but it's still creative nonetheless. All right, well, life totals are changing.
All right, so Duress
Oh,
just took out a Naturalize. We got Collar the
oh,
Claw back in hand. Elves is winning the race now, but we've got a second Exalted Angel morphed, or we have a morph on the board for
yeah.
Chris.
All right, so Mountain in play means Anger is live.
Yeah,
Is there?
could have a hasty squee, but instead,
um, I'm just trying to think if there's a sequence because there's no. I guess blocking is no. I would say there's no way to kill your elves like pre-combat. To get like sacrifice some number of elves. I guess natural order, but like that's not a very mana efficient way of doing it. I guess
we did see that in game one, though.
natural order with haste would be pretty good here.
Yeah,
That might be what Nick has. I mean, the pace of his
he's got
play.
a deranged hermit. There's a couple
So,
different angles here that he's he's got the W.
like his body language seems confident. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he's playing fast.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, we're just
So the symbiote stays at home. That one's not willing to be risked in combat, and so this is attack.
I mean, yeah, it is the engine that he has right here.
Going
it's
down
like keeping
to
him ahead on board.
Chris will go down to 4, but if he's able to untap and then flip the angel, then you're gonna gain 8 life, and while the elves deck could come off of that, like a natural order or a Kamal.
And Nick has no cards in hand, so he's just playing in top deck mode right now.
All right, angel's gonna flip. We're gonna go.
Those Mirrodin Plains just hit so hard. He's not even playing any artifacts with them. It's so sad.
Phyrexian Furnace begs to differ.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nick needs.
That's game.
No, Kamal, natural order,
scooping?
survival plus a creature. I think he has a number of outs. He's
not windmill slamming his hand. So,
is there a card that you'd be thinking about? Priest of Titania.
Priest.
Nope, not enough. The Exalted Angels just were able. Chris was able to slow down Nick enough, like get the survival off the board, and then just the creatures just never got to a point where they were too much. And the Exalted Angel did a really good job of erasing that combat damage.
And he only plays 3 of them too, but just really owned the match there. Haunting Echoes, Exalted Angels really took it home.
All right, we're going to jump down to the players, and we're going to discuss maybe their input on the game, the deck bannings, the sideboarding. We'll see. And if Chad has any questions, let us know.
This shouldn't be so hard. There we go.
Hello.
All right.
Unmute them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we should probably unmute them. That'd be a good thing to do. They might have things they want to talk about.
We just want to hear you guys talk about the match. You guys got to play the fun game.
Yeah.
Woo.
Woof. Yeah, so I egregiously punted in game 2 with that natural order.
Okay.
I was like, oh, I could just get a Deranged Hermit and didn't realize I only had 4 mana. I was like, oh, I'm just throwing this Deranged Hermit into the bin.
Yeah, we were gonna say like because they came down quick and then you paused and we're kind of like we weren't sure if there were cards in your hand that you were targets or if like
So
I
had Kamal in my hand too, so I couldn't even swap to Kamal, and that's when I was like, oh no. So I kind of like punted really hard in there, and then I had to get Caller in the survival game 3 because if he has Wrath, that's terrible, but which he did, I think.
Yeah, I Wrath and Plague. I had I had a couple of punts too. I got too overzealous about getting rid of. I hate anger as a card, right? Like fundamentally, it's my least favorite card in Elves. So I got 2 tunnel visions on clearing the mountain instead of the cradle. And so I was thinking about Kamal. I'm like, oh, thank God he only has 4 mana. He can't activate Kamal his turn. And it's like, all right, boom. Oh, and there go my lands. Now, fortunately, he's got 26 lands, so it's not awful to rebuild, but that was not ideal. But that was a good match. I enjoyed that. That was fun.
that was a case where I was like, I think I have to go for the win before with this angel on the board.
Yeah.
I could have got a call there, but I was like, well, worst case, I like blow up 4 of his lands.
Yep.
Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Obviously wasn't enough. Wirewood and Squee.
Yep. They almost went the distance.
I was like,
they almost went the distance that game.
Yeah, they got close, but yeah.
But I was like, well, if he Hunting Echoes everything out of my deck, I'm just gonna get Naturalize and get out from this E-Plague, and then I'm just gonna kill him with a bunch of 1/1s.
Okay.
But I just didn't find it until it was too late.
Yeah, what was left in your deck after that Haunting Echoes?
Deranged Hermit.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it. And 1/1s. I was basically just like, oh, until he presents anyway, he's actually gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
That's right.
I mean, I was sweating. I was like, this is it. I'm going. Yeah. How long can I let them keep hitting me? You know, I had the 2 swords in hand. I'm like, I can't. I don't really want to spend the swords on this. And then weighing out how hard, how deep to scry.
That was ballsy.
Yeah,
that was impressive going for that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, do it.
I was like, I have to find something. I gotta dig for some sort of threat or something to kind of close this out.
Yeah, you really had to.
This was not the matchup I wanted. I definitely think Elves has a real advantage in game 1. It's just faster, and you have fewer ways to meaningfully interact. But Nick, to his credit, figured out what the 4D chess that I was trying to engineer. And did not give me Dreadnought with black-white. So,
nope.
Yeah, I guess, Nick, question for you: were you expecting the Haunting Echoes to come in for games 2?
I was. I just didn't expect it right then, I guess. Or I kind of forgot about it. I was like, yeah, he's gonna bring it in, and then
I gotta give all credit to that.
I was like, oh shit.
full credit there to Demian Vernieri, who talked about. It was off my radar, and we were talking about black white's various matchups, and I said I got hit by Haunting Echoes, and it was brutal. Elves is a ton of 4-ofs, and you can between survival, discard, a wrath, whatever, you can clear a lot out of the deck. Not the easiest card to resolve via webcam, but
yeah. I guess I was surprised on how much the game was just traditional creatures and combat. It was the survival got kept off the board most of the game, and then it was just kind of you playing a bunch of creatures and then Exalted Angel trying to race it.
Yeah.
I had to keep the survival hand. You duress me both games.
Yeah,
but game 3, I was like, well, at least I have 2 now.
Yep.
So when you duress the first one,
but.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat.
Thanks.
Yeah, those were really interesting games, and it's always nice to see the really scrappy things where the games don't go quite as planned, and then you kind of have to really dig deep to figure out ways to play. So I thought that was really fun.
We did to create drama, right? Those were not punts. Those were narrative devices.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
You see, Chris and I are doing this whole thing wrestling,
Exactly.
Game 2, when it was all happening, that was when the stream was going out, the skeletal scrying was happening. Squee was going in for the win. It was, that's drama right there.
But the cool thing there, I guess, is I couldn't if I lost to Squee, I can't be mad, right? That's amazing, right? That's a story.
Yeah.
Amen. After you basically removed 90% of his deck.
Yes. Yeah. But there's narratively that works because Squee keeps coming back, right? You can't remove it. You just
you cast Haunting Echoes, and I was like, do I just scoop here? I was like, I don't think I do. Until you play an Angel Dragon.
That's what someone in chat was on stream. Haunting Echoes, insta scoop, just game over. I don't want to bother with this. Yeah.
If I didn't have a Deranged Hermit left in the deck, I probably would have scooped. But I was like, I could just rip a Deranged Hermit off the top. Didn't, but I could have.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have any other questions. James, is there anything that you wanted to ask?
All set. Good games, guys. It was fun to watch.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. We'll let you go.
Appreciate it.
And Chat, we're going to take a quick break as I get things set up for our next match. So upcoming, we have match between McLean Denny against Mike Harris, and we have a special guest joining us in the booth. So we will see you soon, and James, we'll see you next week. Nice job playing, nice job commentating, but yeah, you get a well-deserved break. You can enjoy some PSS, and we will see you next week.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a nice night.
All right, so real quick, I'll be back as I get things set up. Don't go anywhere. It should be just a few minutes.